10 Premier League games occurred over the course of the weekend. Let's get into my reaction and predictions. Also, don't forget to stick around so that you could get your chance to win up to £5. Obviously, I did predictions for this previous weekend's Premier League games, and we'll be keeping score in this corner here. Burnley 5, Sheffield United 0. Obviously, this is a big disappointment for Sheffield United, who sacked their manager soon after this game and appointed Chris Wilder as their new manager. This is a good result for Burnley, but Sheffield United should not be losing 5-0 to a relegation competitor. And people may make the argument that, well, they had a player sent off, but they were already 2-0 down by that point, and the game looked set to only head in one direction. Good result for Burnley, but ultimately both teams are headed for relegation this season, unfortunately. Manchester City 3, Tottenham Hotspur 3. Good result for Tottenham Hotspur, although Manchester City should not be drawing 3-3 with a team that has injury and suspension issues in Romero, Mickey van der Ven and Maddison, especially at home. I think that this result suggests to me that Manchester City are probably not going to win the Premier League this season. They seem to concede too many goals for me to put any faith in their defensive capabilities at a Premier League title winning standard. Liverpool 4, Fulham 3. And again, I'm going to say the same thing of Liverpool that I just said about Manchester City. I don't think that their defensive capabilities are up to a title-winning standard. And for me, Liverpool are probably not going to win the Premier League this season. Fulham obviously should take some confidence out of this result. Despite losing, they pushed Liverpool all the way, scoring 3 past a very good Premier League team this season. Ultimately, I think that Fulham's position in the league will be lower mid-table, and Liverpool, I think that they will push for a title-winning challenge, but ultimately will fall short due to their propensity to concede goals. Arsenal 2, Wolves 1, and we're on to the team that I think will win the Premier League this season, Wolves. No, I'm joking, Arsenal. Arsenal, I think that they're the most consistent team in the league this season. They, despite playing mediocre, average, sometimes poorly, they seem to be able to pick up the points regardless. And I think that if things click into place this season for them, then they'll go on an absolute tear and could potentially they could go on a 10, 12 game unbeaten run. With regard to Wolves, look, this result was never in doubt. It was always going to be an Arsenal win for me. But, Wolves, I think that they will sort of finish probably around mid-table or lower mid-table. Nothing to worry about for them. And, restart for the next season. Newcastle 1, Manchester United 0. Newcastle absolutely obliterated Manchester United. They played them off the park. Manchester United looked out of sorts all over the place. Really, really struggled. Some players looked disinterested. There was players shouting at each other, having a go at each other on the pitch. Players having a go at the manager having a go at the players on the pitch. It was a whole mess. And Newcastle deserved this victory. They could have been 3 or 4 up by half time. The game could have ended 8 or 9 for them. Unfortunately, Nick Pope suffered an injury, which has added to their injury woes further. I think they have 11 players now injured. But they're a team that work hard for the manager, who have systems of play in place. And if they continue on as they are, they'll challenge for the top 4 and maybe even make it. Bournemouth 2, Aston Villa 2. Bournemouth continued their good run of form. That's now 7 points from a possible 9 in their last 3 games, having defeated Newcastle and Sheffield United, and now drawing to Aston Villa. Aston Villa, I think, will likely be disappointed with this result. I think that certainly for me, the expectation was that they would win it. They would have to graft for it, but they would win it. And unfortunately, that wasn't the case. They actually ended up equalising in the late stages of the game. And I think that Bournemouth will likely be the ones that left that game slightly disappointed that it was a draw and not the whole 3 points. Chelsea 3, Brighton 2. Chelsea seem to be continuing their good run of form, which is good for them. It's taken them a while to sort of get into the season a little bit and start to perform to the level that maybe people felt that they were capable of starting the season. But Pochettino seems to have gotten some good results out of this set of players. They've started to score more consistently than they did previously. Brighton, on the other hand, I think it's 1 win in 8, which is just not good enough for them. Obviously, they're a smaller club, but the expectations of them based on their performance previously in the league is a lot better than that. But I think that Brighton, when they start picking up points, when they start to pick up form, they'll be fine. Sort of upper mid-table, maybe 7th or 8th. I have no doubt that they'll sort of be in and around that sort of area. Brentford 3, Luton Town 1. Luton Town, obviously, at home, they're a good side and they're a difficult side to play against at home. Away from home, they seem to struggle a lot more. They seem to struggle to sort of imprint their game into the game. Brentford obviously are a pretty decent side. They've still got Ivan Toney to come back. Assuming that he plays for them in January, I think that they'll do absolutely fine, and that they'll be sort of in the same mix as Brighton, sort of upper mid-table, I would suggest. But Luton, I hope that they can pick up more points. I think that it could be a very touching Cinderella story if they were able to stay in the league this season with the size of the club and the efforts that they put in. Nottingham Forest 0, Everton 1. Nottingham Forest, I said last week that they concede too much, but they should be okay because they score enough. And this week, they conceded 1 goal, which is an improvement, but they didn't score. And the reality is that neither team sort of imprinted anything on this game. Sean Dyche did what you would expect of Sean Dyche, scored a goal, went ahead, and then pretty much shut the game down. And Forest didn't really have any real clear-cut opportunities in the game. And if Forest don't start to pick up points soon, they're going to start falling into that relegation battle. They're not far from that as it stands. And obviously Everton have now gotten 3 points on them, and Everton are down there themselves. And so, if you're not picking up points against sort of your competitors, particularly at home, you're going to struggle. West Ham 1, Crystal Palace 1. There wasn't really anything in this game at all. West Ham dominated the ball, scored, and then they gave away an easy goal, basically handed it to Crystal Palace on a platter. And then for the rest of the game, neither team looked like scoring with any particular real chance. Quite a boring 1-1 draw. I predicted it to be, I think, 3-2. A high-scoring game, and it just offered very little. But neither team will be particularly happy with this result. Neither team will be particularly disappointed with this result. It is what it is. And it pretty much reflects where these two teams will find themselves in the league by the end of the season, around each other pretty much, mid-table. Before we get into my predictions for this weekend, let's confirm my score for my predictions for last weekend's games. I have a score of 7, which means that I didn't meet the 10 threshold, and therefore World of Football LFC, I owe you £1. Drop me an email and I will get that over to you via PayPal as soon as possible. Send me your PayPal details and we'll get that sorted. And for your chance to win up to £5 for the Premier League predictions game, check out the full rules in the description. And let's get into my predictions for this weekend's football. Crystal Palace 0, Liverpool 2. Crystal Palace are struggling to pick up points at home this season. I think they have 1 win in 6. So obviously, big struggle for them. Liverpool, I think that if they maintain a clean sheet, this will be a comfortable game for them. So a 2-0 victory. Maybe Salah, maybe Szoboszlai, why not? Brighton 2, Burnley 1. Brighton have won 1 game in their previous 8 games, and I think that a game against Burnley is well needed right now. It's a game that's quite winnable for them. I think that they'll be disappointed if they don't win this game. Burnley obviously coming off of a 5-0 victory against Sheffield United. Their confidence might be boosted, but ultimately Brighton will have too much. They have too much quality for them, and they will win 2-1 at home. Manchester United 0, Bournemouth 1. I know, I just said that. Manchester United will lose to Bournemouth. It's coming, let's be honest. A shock result for Manchester United is coming. It's in the pipework. It's not far off. I think that there's a potential for it to be this game, with Bournemouth coming off of a good run of form. You know, they beat Newcastle at home. They beat Sheffield United. They drew to Aston Villa. This is a potential winner for them. And Manchester United, I know that they typically will put in more effort at Old Trafford. But the reality is that I don't see Ten Hag lasting past the January break. And I think that maybe if Bournemouth win this game, it could be Ten Hag's last game. It's written in the stars, a million miles away. I don't know the lyrics, but you know what I'm saying. Bournemouth 1, Manchester United 0. Sheffield United 0, Brentford 1. Following the absolute destruction by Burnley, I just don't see where Sheffield United are going to pick up points, and Brentford are a lot better than Burnley. Obviously Sheffield United are at home, and so maybe the goals that they concede will be less than what it would be if it was the other way around. But I think that Brentford, they'll win this 1-0 and it'll be quite comfortable as well. And they'll probably miss 5 or 6 other opportunities that you think they should have scored, and the scoreline will be flattering to deceive. 1-0. Wolves 2, Nottingham Forest 0. Forest just can't stop conceding. And Wolves are a decent side. You know, they don't typically struggle to score goals. You know, they've been able to sort of assert attacking success against decent teams this season. And I think that Forest in comparison are a pushover compared to those teams. And I think that Wolves. I mean, it's so easy to score against Forest recently that 2-0 is maybe a bit conservative, but you never know. So 2-0. Aston Villa 1, Arsenal 2. I think that Aston Villa are obviously one of the more entertaining teams in the league this season, but I think that Arsenal will have too much for them. I think that Arsenal will dominate the middle of the park. Aston Villa might get a breakaway goal, but I think that the quality that Arsenal have is just too much at this point for Aston Villa. I don't think it'll be a comfortable win for Arsenal, but I do think that they will secure it and move on to the next one, 2-1. Everton 0, Chelsea 1. I think that with Everton, they are coming off of a mixed bag of results. They played Manchester United and lost 3-0. They've just played Forest and won 1-0. I think that Chelsea are a good team more recently. They don't seem to be struggling to score anymore. And I think that in the middle of the park, they'll be too much for Everton. And they'll punish Everton and win 1-0. Fulham 1, West Ham 0. This could go either way. It could be a draw. But I think that Fulham, with the home game advantage and potentially picking up a bit of confidence from the 4-3 loss to Liverpool, having scored 3 goals, I think that maybe they could win this game 1-0, but I think it'll be a close competition. Luton 1, Manchester City 3. Luton, they make big teams work hard for their results at home. You know, they made Manchester United work hard. They made Liverpool work hard. They made Arsenal work hard midweek. And I think that they'll make Manchester City work hard. But I think that Manchester City will have more success in finishing chances created. And I think that they will limit Luton's opportunities to score. So 3-1. Maybe a Haaland hat-trick. Who knows? Tottenham 2, Newcastle 2. Two teams who have very good managers who seem to be able to get their players to work very hard for them. Both teams are missing key players. Newcastle obviously have an injury list as long as my arm. Tottenham have injuries to 2 key players. The suspension of Romero, maybe he's going to be back for this game, I'm not 100% sure. But it'll be an exciting game, an entertaining game, but ultimately they'll have to settle for a point each. So those are my predictions for the Premier League games this weekend. Don't forget to comment below. Check the description for the full rules for the prediction game for your chance to win up to £5. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and have a great day.